Hi, I'm Brian Lepak. I'm the chair of the Law Practice Management and Technology section of the Beverly Hills Bar Association. We welcome you to today's presentation called Run Your Law Practice Efficiently and Economically for Better Client Relations and Increased Profit. Before we start the program, I want to give you some information. Certificates for this program will be given to you by email within 24 hours, so check for that. Program materials will be in the chat, but they were also emailed you today with the program reminder earlier today. If you're interested in upcoming programs that are put on by the Beverly Hills Bar Association, we encourage you to visit the beverlyhillsbarassociation.org website. We also ask you to check your emails for notices of upcoming programs. If you're interested in having a particular program related to law practice and technology, I suggest you either email me or to put something in the chat, and we will see if we can put on that program for you in the future. If you have any articles you want published by the Beverly Hills Bar Association related to law practice and technology or any other subject, you can contact a section chair to see if we can get that article published by the Beverly Hills Bar Association. And then finally, if you have questions regarding today's program during the program, we encourage you to put your questions in the chat and see if there's sufficient time for our panelists to answer your questions. And with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Ms. Cade. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really, really excited to be here with all of you. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. I assume you all can see it. So our title today is Law Firm Efficiency, and my company is Executive on the Go, and my name is AnGèle Cade. I want to share a little bit about myself with you. We've worked to support and help legal, accounting, financial firms when it comes to structure, assets, collecting debt, piercing corporate veils, just dealing with formation and structure. And so in the industry, I would consider myself really a business formation expert. Been doing this work for over 18 years, and it's been really a part of my passion to do this type of work in helping people navigate proper structures and also white labeling for professionals such as yourself. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to jump right into the conversation around efficiency today. And so what does efficiency look like now? You know, when we think about efficiency, it has changed so much over the years, you know, whether 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or even very simply a year ago. It will continue to look different, and it's about us staying current on trends, needs, industries, technology, and especially application. And so efficiency, very simply in definition, is this maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expense. And I know at the end of the day, the things that are important to you is, yes, you know, wanting to make sure that your effort is being maximized and that your expense, you know, is something that's not being wasted. You want to really look overall at what is going on with the efficiency, not only in your business and with yourself, but also with your team. It's all around you. And so one of the things that I wanted to go over very briefly with you is what efficiency can give you. And so when we look over the clients that we serve and how we're able to help firms navigate efficiency, at the end of the day, it's making sure that you have enhanced focus and productivity. Your time is really such a big commodity. It is the thing that you have that has so much value. So making sure that it can be enhanced focus and productivity surrounding it. Your business deserves systemization, and that is a part of what it means to go through the steps of making sure that you are allocating, delegating, and collaborating with people that can help your business tool that. So looking at it can give you enriched strategic implementation, making sure that when it comes to strategy, it's clear on how you're going to implement this strategy to navigate the goals that you have in your business. One of the things that we do is we talk to a lot of business owners, but especially with the firms, sometimes you have to pause and take a step back and realize that in your practice, it is still business. It is still about you having a business, building a business, scaling a business, having systems, having points of productivity, talking about strategic implementation, establishing your goals, building your team, considering what it means to scale, aligning yourself with service providers and people that are around you that will help you accomplish the goals that you have in your business. Your business, your structure, those are things that you want to have the team around you that's reminding you that, hey, you know what, in your structure, you have your professional corporation, you still have things like Dun and Bradstreet to contend with, and things to build around compliance, and things to make sure that are in order with your business. So just making sure that all those things can be in place. Once those things are lined up, once you've got the team, then you have this improved creativity. And really kind of taking a pause and realizing a lot of us in this work, we're so like, left brain, we're so, about this process and what's going on. But the reality is that sometimes the greatness of what you can create is in this improved innovation and these options. You are problem solvers. You are able to create where nothing existed before, and how you navigate the process and the system. And so efficiency will give you improved creativity. And then also better decision making. You want to be able to capitalize on the information and the resources and the insight that is needed along the way. Uh, Again, I say that you are a problem solver. And for you to be able to solve problems even better is considering the best use of your time. You want to take a moment, if you can, if you haven't done so, you want to audit your time like you would your finances. Take a look at what's being spent in the day, in the week, in the month. How are you spending your time? A lot of us clock in and we fail to clock out. We don't realize that now it's wee hours in the morning, or we're preparing for something that's next. Do a time audit. Put a time limit on things. Make sure that planning is in place. And then, like I said, delegating and outsourcing. And I'm going to get into some examples, very specific examples of that real shortly. But how to best use your expertise. This is a part of you, again, having that efficiency. You want to share it, make sure you establish it, increase it, and always, always take the lead. So back to the conversation about business, the landscape that we're in, it continues to change, and it's been changing for the last year in a very aggressive way, where throughout the pandemic we saw it change across so many industries. But one thing that it did was it gave us evidence, and it gave us clarity on where a lot of holes were in business. What did the pandemic do to agencies? Now, my specialty is dealing with agencies across the country, because we deal with the Secretary of States and all the different agencies that deal with compliance and establishing, entities. And so we saw a lot of them really begin to discover and ramp up how they were engaging online. Some of them were continuing to still do things by paper that had to be couriered over. As people navigated working from home, we saw agencies have some really, big holes in how they were engaging with the public. These things began to change the way that we were doing business, and it really showed where some of these major holes were, that over the course of the last year, they began to plug and figure out and deal with as we were navigating these waters. Now, the reality is that in the scheme of work, dealing with the agency is one part of it, but the efficiency portion, the other side of it, where you do your deeper work, where greater deals are made, where great contracts are executed, where things are done, is that if you can have the right person on your team doing that weed work in the trenches, then you'd be able to feel the benefit of what it means to have people on your team that's navigating that conversation. Adjustments were made. People had to reorganize and collaborate differently. When monies began to be distributed through the CARES Act, we got an immense amount of calls across the country, because what happened, people realized that they weren't in compliance, they realized they didn't have the right structures, they realized that there were problems in how they were doing business. When they were issued out funds, the SBA came back and said, oh, by the way, we need resolutions, oh, by the way, send us proof of this, oh, by the way, right, because these things were out of order. So all of these things revealed what was going on in this kind of culture of small business, where people were getting by or thought that they had something that they really didn't have. So as we're navigating this kind of new territory where landscape is changing, what are we doing with this feedback? How are we instituting change? How are we making sure that across the different agencies, across the different industries, across the climate that we're dealing with, that we're actually advocating for best practices, that we're questioning how things are being done? Everybody's navigating online, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect, right? Because all the states aren't on the same page when it comes to things like recognizing notaries, or what it means to process different paperwork. And so just making sure that these conversations can be clear. So what professions or companies like mine, what we do is we look at these agencies and we say, look, there are different ways that they are doing their process, but what's the most effective way for us to navigate with firms to make sure that there's consistency in how you're able to deliver to your client? Again, efficiency really means what? That maximizing of time. And if you can have point people, if you can have resources, if you can have techniques, if you can have technology that's in that place, then how much more is it going to allow you to scale? And so looking at what it's going to take. Agents, a lot of times when you are dealing in the world with resident agents and things like address forwarding, I wanted to mention that in the last year, we saw how banks were even changing how they were dealing with a lot of the clients around their addresses. Years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but when UPS had a huge marketing push, and they were putting out there, oh, start your small business, oh, get one of our addresses. And they were telling them like, hey, you can use our address. Why? Because as a private mailbox, their address shows up as a street address. And prior, it was very acceptable, right? You could use the street address on the documents, you could use the street address on public record, and it would maintain the privacy of the client. Well, the banks, through the course of the pandemic, during the summer, they flagged every PMB that came through, and they said, you know what, we're no longer taking it. Why? Because the increase of fraud created a situation where now it gave feedback to the industry that said we can't take these PMBs and allow them to get by as static business addresses. We need physical addresses. So then the issue of privacy comes into play, the issue of what you're going to use, or how it's going to be viewed, or what's listed on public record, or what you can use when opening accounts or getting into certain relationships. The other thing that happened was, because we deal with counties and parishes across the country, we saw how it changed how trade names and assumed names and DBAs were being treated, because a lot of these counties, they were used to dealing with things over the counter, right? And so what happened was, as this change happened, you have a 5-year renewal, at least here in LA County and in most of the counties across the state. And so when it comes up on a renewal, because of everything that was going on, people they weren't pinged, they weren't notified in the same way. So a lot of clients got caught in this gray area where they weren't able to renew. And by the time you look at it, remember, it's 5 years. 5 years ago, you didn't have to get these documents notarized. 5 years ago, it wasn't the same climate as it is now. And so a lot of people were doing what they thought was right 5 years ago, and they came back and they lost their names. They lost the assumed names. So making sure that you've got people in areas that need to be niche for you, that you have access to people that are niched in those areas to save you the time, so that you don't have to deal with any rejection or things that might come back. Registrations become a factor, because now, for most of you, I'm sure, you felt or you've seen a lot of the exits that have happened in California, right? The first major exit I saw when AB5, right, when AB5 came through, as far as across in California, the first time when it came through and it was going into process, we saw a huge exit. We saw a whole bunch of things changing because people realized, you know what, it's too expensive to do business in California. So we saw industries begin to leave, or we saw industries begin to realize the importance of domiciling somewhere else. Well, you want to make sure that as you're navigating these waters for your client, that you have the most up-to-date information and that you are surrounded by the team of people that can help navigate and aid in building your efficiency and your efficiency measures. The reality is that things like foreign registrations, which a lot of clients, they'll come in and they'll say, well, our CPA said to do this over here. And the reality is that in those filings, in those addresses, in all of the things that are needed, we saw huge change. Why? Because employees were moving and people now were hiring people in other states. How did that affect their entity or where they were doing business? So those are ways, or those are things that come up. And when you specialize in an area or live in an area, then you're able to explore all aspects so that when you are serving other people, when I'm servicing firms, I'm able to really speak into a very niche area that could impact their client. So as you build your team around you, you remember you are still a business. You're not just in this for the work that you do for your clients. You're in this for the greater good that you're building in your business. Who are the people that you're aligning with? What are you doing for the future of your firm? And what does this look like scaled? What does this look like across other states? What does this look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How are you navigating all the pieces and sources that you need? Is everybody understand efficiency the same way that you do? And are you building those relationships that are plugging into the efficiency that you stand for? So really looking at all of these pieces together and what they can mean for your business. A lot of times when people do simple things, like you might think, oh, an address, isn't a big deal, but something as simple as that can really make a difference when it comes to consistency, when it comes to making sure that you make sense on paper, following a paper trail. And so just having people on your team that understand the things that are important to you. And that's what I really wanted to share with you today, really navigating these waters and understanding that, you know what, you're not in this alone. There are people that are in niche industries that can support you along the way, and that these things all add to the benefit of what it means for you to do business better, to do business bigger, and to definitely be more efficient in what you do. Your efficiency is really connected to your bottom line, your time. And we've heard the saying time again, right? Your time, right? Biggest commodity that you have. It's one of those things. You spend it, you don't get it back, right? So just making sure that at the end of the day, that these are the pieces that you've lined up, that you've put in place, and that makes sense for how you are going to do business moving forward. I'm really, really excited to share with you today. I hope that you heard or gleaned something around efficiency that either triggered or maybe just reminded you of the things that you already know or already have in the way that you do business. And then also considering what it means to build the team around you, to add the services in the components of how you're doing business, to consider what it means for you to scale at a greater level. And knowing that, you know what, when I find those right team players, when I get those people in place, when I access those niche experts, it's going to it's going to elevate me in business. It's going to elevate me with my clients. And so just making sure that all those things align for you. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I know that it touches on a subject that it can be difficult for a lot of people because you're in the work, right? A lot of us are in the work, and we're just, in the everyday grind of what it means to do the work. And we don't always get the chance to go above and see from an aerial view, you know what, let me work on the business. Let me work on the systems. Let me work on the efficiency, because it seems to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to get these pieces in place to get these relationships in place. But I assure you that if you take the time to do those things, that all of a sudden you'll see the exponential benefit of what it means to reap later on these relationships, these resources, these insights, these specialties that then elevate the way that you do business and the way that you occur for your client. So again, I'm really excited to be here with all of you. I wish for all of you the very best. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Pamela Mims, who is an amazing, amazing resource. And I look forward myself to hearing all that she has to say. With that said, please go ahead and take over, Pamela.
Okay, thank you. That was wonderful, AnGèle. I really enjoyed that. Well, I want to welcome everyone and to thank you for having me here today. I will share my screen. So again, thank you so much for being here today. And I wanted to tell a little bit about me just real quickly. And I hope, how is everyone doing today? I hope everyone is fine, because I'm doing fine, so hope you're fine. I'd like to tell you a little bit about me. So at 13 years old, I wanted to be just like this idol that I had, and her name was Della Street. And for those of you that don't know who she is, I'm dating myself here. That was Perry Mason's secretary. I wanted to be just like her. She was chic, she was organized, she was classy, and I wanted to be just like her in court with my boss and solving the cases. But I saw that really wasn't the case when I did become a legal secretary, which I was for 14 years with high profile firms such as O'Melveny and Myers, Loeb and Loeb, Skadden Arps, and ended with Hill, Farrar, and Burrow. So when I did end with Hill, Farrar in 1994, I started my own company, Mims Business Consulting, which has, I'm proud to say, has become Southern California's leading law firm in organizing and systemization experts. So I do have a question for all of you to put in the chat. How many of you are using a physical file system, 100% digital system, or a hybrid system? If you could put that in the chat, I'd like to know how many of you are using what. Again, that is a physical system, 100% digital, a hybrid.
Great.
Okay. Now, I would like for you to imagine just for a moment that you got a call for a dream case in Europe on this villa, something like this, to where it's a beautiful villa, and you would be gone for 2 months, possibly 3 months, but you had to drop everything in order to do this dream case and go on this dream case. Could you do it? Would you be able to, would your firm be able to survive without you that long? Well, this is where having systems in place can make a moment like this come true. So why have systems? So I'm going to give you 9 good reasons and important reasons why you should have systems. What are business systems? They are documented procedures to systematize the business to the point where you can step away from your day-to-day operations and know with confidence that your firm will continue to perform to your standards. And one key thing is the systems work and the people work the systems. So whether you are using a digital file, hybrid, or physical file, you still need a system. So let's talk about what happens when you don't have systems. Like Spanky here that's throwing money away that's just totally wasted because he's losing money. So then that's what happens if you don't have systems in place. You can't teach your team how to work more efficiently without systems in place. You can't manage your team and expect them to work productively without systems. And you can't troubleshoot a problem area, or if something is slipping through the cracks, which is always a big thing as far as me. I'm always worried about it. I don't want anything slipping through the cracks. without a system in place. Systems is a repeatable process, and without systems, you are not replicating tasks. You can't grow your firm or team without knowing where your firm stands. So if you don't have systems in place, you are just throwing the money away, as I said earlier. But having systems in place, you will gain revenue. So improved efficiency, consistency, and quality results in outstanding client services and an excellent reputation, which is more valuable than advertising. You will increase revenue by cutting costs and freeing up your valuable time to grow your firm. For example, think about times when you've wasted a lot of time looking for files, or your most recent case notes, or the latest version of a document on your computer, and also reconstructing billable hours and your expenses. But when you have a system in place that works for these things, you save time and there's less room for error. Also, an efficient firm is easier to build for scale and planning for the future, including retirement or selling the business or your firm. And businesses that function, this is a note, that businesses that function without their ownership are also highly valuable to investors. And then 3, improved performance. When managing specific types of cases or even a routine task, one team member does it her way and another team member does it his way. And neither of them are your way, the firm's way, your signature method. In the chat, if you could tell me, has anyone experienced that as far as one does it their way, another one does it the other way, and it's not what you have pictured? So it may not be clear of who is doing what, resulting in a chaotic free-for-all, and for the original vision you had for a predictable, consistent outcome vanishes. That's what you had in mind, and then it's not there. But documenting tasks allows everyone to become more efficient in his or her job and improve their performance. This way, work is done consistently, the same way each time. Basically, you don't need to hire more staff. And in this one, I really want you to hear me. Basically, you don't need to hire more staff. Instead, document your systems and processes to use your existing team more efficiently. Another time and profit killer is miscommunication. For example, everyone knows to add their case notes to the file or to the practice software, but that doesn't always happen in time to become aware of conflicting court dates during a weekly case review when resources are allocated. But with a clearly defined action plan, there are fewer disagreements and miscommunications. Systemization helps manage growth or downsizing. Businesses with systems in place were better able to handle the shutdowns. And then this is another question I have for you. Did you have to make any big changes to how your team managed their work because of shifting to remote work? Yes or no in the chat. Having a well-organized and documented system in place ensures that you won't have to drop other projects or cases to play catch up or miss deadlines. Your system helps keep you and your workload organized, and with good documentation, you can now effectively delegate projects and tasks. Systems are perfect for expanding your firm. One way to successfully systematize is by imagining that you had a franchise, or in other words, duplicate your firm. So the basis of systemization, business systemization, is that every business should work as if it were a franchise, like McDonald's, Starbucks, GM, or others that you know of that are big corporations, and they all have systems in place. So let's use McDonald's. Okay, I'd like to use McDonald's and to say how, they turned 17-year-old teenagers into productive workers in charge of a multi-million-dollar corporation franchise, and it worked. And how did they do it? By creating systems for doing things with step-by-step written blueprint for every single task. And if one worker leaves, a new one can be up and running with identical results, the same results. Now that's what you call a system. When your business is systematic in its functions and operations, it frees up your time. So you can focus on activities that will help your business grow. For instance, marketing, networking, relationship management, and strategic opportunities. And these are very valuable to you and your time and to your firm. The big thing, taking time off. Taking time off from the business is one of the main benefits of having a systematized law firm. When your firm is systematically organized, you can take a vacation, knowing that your firm will still be able to run even in your absence, and by giving you a peace of mind and security and freedom. And then think back on that gig that I talked about in Europe, taking that to where you're gone a couple of months, that you would be able to do this by having systems in place. So now that you know the benefits of systems, but how to get you started, the first place is that one key person in your office. If you have that one key person in your office, you know the one that knows everything. If that person is suddenly gone, walked out the door, or worse, we don't want to think about the worst, but it does happen, would you know what to do? Would you know where to start? This is where you need to start systematizing your firm. And without systems, your best workers are potentially your biggest obstacle to having a great business. They are also the greatest resource for creating your systems. So I have another question, is let me know in the chat if your firm has that one key person that knows everything, or it might just be you, where you're the only one that knows everything as far as operating the firm. Yes or no? So how do we create a system? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to cover that with 4 simple steps. And the first one is developing a workstation manual. That's very huge to me and very important as far as documenting. So develop a workstation manual for each position or desk at your firm. Don't worry about, or how do we get this started, or what do we do? Don't worry, because everyone currently at your firm can do their part and create their own workstation manual. Because you will use something like this sample form. There's space to include step-by-step instructions for each procedure or process. And so in the chat, I will be providing, after I finish, I'll provide you with PDFs of this workstation manual form, how to create a workstation manual. So those will be in the chat. So what you do is you start with one task, and you outline each step you follow to accomplish that task. List the resources or tools needed to accomplish the task. Be as detailed as possible. This will be used as a training tool and an execution tool. So it's very valuable for you. Documenting procedures allows you to discover any unnecessary steps. That's key right there also. Slipping through the cracks, when I mentioned that earlier, you're concerned about things slipping through the cracks. By having it documented, you won't. And also any unnecessary steps, you will find that out as you are creating the workstation manual and documenting it that you may be taking. So With those simple steps that I just told you about, you've just documented a process. It's that easy. And this is a sample procedure on how to set up a new file. As you can see, it's step by step. And that's what would be put into the Workstation manual, a step-by-step instruction of how to do a particular task. Use screenshots and videos in documentation. Visuals are great learning tools. And we like to use Loom for video training, which is a great program. Okay, other important tools you'll need to systematize your firm are templates, forms, and checklists. These are all to help streamline your firm's processes. A template is like a blueprint. A template is like a blueprint. And template examples include simple pleading forms, letters. Those are templates. Forms are used to collect information, such as a client intake form. Checklists, which are big to me also, are used to document tasks that need to be completed. Examples of checklists include trial prep worksheets, filing system checklists, and case management and client follow-up checklists. All of your forms, templates, and checklists should be included in your Workstation manual, along with step-by-step instructions on covering how and when they are to be used. This is a sample potential client screening form that's up here, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, but that would be included into the manual as far as a form document. And our checklist. A checklist is a critical element of the systemized office. For every major type of file or case that you work on, there should be a checklist. The checklist is a step-by-step list for each activity task. Checklists are tools used to better organize your assignments and to verify easily your most important tasks. If you do something repetitively and you want it done right every time, a checklist is an indispensable tool, therefore resulting in being very efficient. The goal is this: any person who picks up a file should be able to see exactly what has been done, because every task has been identified, put in sequence, checked off, and initialed upon completion. And now I'm going to introduce Allison Gibson. She is our digital office guru to take over and explain some technology tips.
Oh, thank you, Pamela. So I just want to tie this in a little bit with what you were talking about previously. That is that where you start off where you document a process. You document your various processes for the different types of cases that you use. And then you develop some information collection forms, some templates for commonly used documents, and some checklists along the way, whether it's for case management or whether it's for client intake. You do all that. Now, this is something that can easily be done on your technology. Whether you're using something like G Suite or Google or one of the practice or case management softwares, you can apply your custom checklist forms and templates. So our number one technology recommendation, and we're just going to kind of do this on a high view, is to embrace the technology. So we did see quite a number of people in the chat, Pamela, who are using a hybrid method. And it looks like some people are 100% digital, and no one has admitted so far to being physical, on physical file only, but I know that you're out there because we've seen them. We always recommend the hybrid technique of managing your files and your cases. And the reason is obvious, as evidenced during the recent, pandemic. If you can't get to your physical files, you're in trouble. And there's no backup if something happens to your physical files. And of course, with the hybrid, you do have a backup, but if you're all digital, if your internet goes down and you're not backed up on a local computer, you can also have issues, especially if you're in a time-sensitive situation. So hybrid is definitely the way to go. And of course, hybrid also takes into consideration those who just love a physical piece of paper. Totally understandable. Another thing that we're seeing here on the chat, Pamela, in answer to your questions, is that we have quite a bit quite a bit who are solo practitioners. So when we get to some of the challenges of systemizing, especially when you're practicing solo and you've got a smaller team, that's definitely going to be important. The third thing that we recommend is that your technology, your server, your access to your digital files has to be accessible to those who are going to need it and those who are backing you up, for example, but it has to be secure. So it's important that you have IT involved all along the way. And our fourth really strong recommendation is to integrate all of your systems with either your case management software, but all the core things that have, your email and Outlook or Gmail, your document processing, your calendaring, all these things need to be integrated with case management. And one good way to do that is to integrate the templates, checklists, and forms if you're not using case management. So that's our other recommendation. This makes it easier for you to do everything from greeting clients to client intake. Just about everybody has a process for that. Team onboarding, of course, case management, trial prep, all, the whole life, closeout, archiving, file destruction, filings, the whole thing. So thank you so much. And I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Allison. That was very helpful. Okay, so now you can train your team with what information that I had talked about. You can train your team in your signature method of doing things and your standards. So with your processes documented, you can now train your staff faster and thoroughly. And if employees within your firm change, I want you to keep this in mind. If your employees within your firm change, your system does not. So anyone, as I said in the McDonald's part, anyone could just walk in and resume what it is that job vacated or who vacated the job. They can step in and resume its duties. And your team is empowered to perform at their highest possible level when they get the training and having these documented systems in place. So designating, so we're going to jumpstart. How do you jumpstart the process? So you would designate a team member you can depend on to take on this project. Express your goals for systemizing the office. Explain the process of documenting tasks, of how important it is. Calendar on a quarterly time period for revising or updating any of the processes. Now, you might encounter, after you're trying to get your team on the same page, you might encounter some challenges, and you might not, which would be very great, really good if you don't. But there will be some challenges you could face with your team. So let me know in the chat if you have any of the following challenges. Do you get resistance? Time consuming. I don't have the time to do this. When will I have the time to do this? So the solutions would be to hire a consultant or hire a temp, teach your team to design their own systems, start with one process, just one. Work on it as you use it. Make it a priority if you want to reap the benefits as we outlined in this presentation. Systemization pays for itself clearly in 6 months or less.
Pamela, I'd like to talk about that just a little bit on the time consuming. We seem to have some solo practitioners here. And
Mhm.
so we have a smaller team, as I mentioned earlier. And I think one of the ways that we've approached this in the past with smaller firms or solos creating their systems is that they just set a goal that this is going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months. And they slowly, spend 2 hours a week or 4 hours a week on the project until it's completed. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Allison. And then the other resistance as far as to change that you might get. Well, the old way has worked for me just fine. Why do I have to learn a new system? Type of attitude, if you get those. Well, the solution to that is those that, and think about this, please, those that resist change are also resisting the firm's growth. Get your teams thinking to be, this is how we do things here. So by impressing upon them the benefits of systemization. So another challenge is the misconception that not documenting means job security. Sometimes they feel they don't want to reveal any of their secrets or all of their secrets, or feel they may lose their job by documenting everything. But you have to think about the effects of the pandemic had clearly proven that the unexpected can occur, and we all need to be covered in the event of absence or unavailability to work. And then updating the system. Your system consistently needs updating as new tasks arise. The system is improved and tweaked at each opportunity, making it as simple and efficient as possible. At the very latest, every 6 months, as I mentioned before, it needs to be reviewed so that it can be tweaked, any new things that need to be added, and so that your system will be always flow efficiently, because you have to update it and review it and make sure that everything is on course. So actually, I'd like to know if there are any questions that you have, and I'm going to put the handouts in the chat in just a moment.
Okay. So Pamela, we do have one question so far. Someone asked, well, what do you do with original signed documents if you are fully digital? And I would like to answer that partially. We don't ever recommend that anyone be fully digital for just that reason. There's evidence, there are original documents, although digital is moving in some ways towards having an original digital document. But do you have an answer for that, Pamela?
As far as, I'm sorry.
Original signed documents if you're fully digital. Have you ever encountered that?
No, I have not encountered that. I have not encountered that situation.
Yeah, that's why we do hybrid, because you do have some original signed documents, and those get filed. I mean, they get scanned, but they also get filed in a physical file and stored.
Yeah.
Looks like we have, as I mentioned earlier, quite a few solo practitioners with us today who just want to know about getting the systemization. And I think one thing that we may not have covered because we're running out of time now, but is that after you document each piece of your process, whether it's greeting files or the client intake, each little piece, then that's when you start incorporating the checklist and the forms and the templates. And then you put those all together to create that workstation manual, so that now you have from beginning to end of your client's life, from the minute they call you or email you or walk through the door, what happens all the way through the end of that life when the file is stored or archived or destroyed. Is that correct, Pamela?
That is correct. That is correct. Well,
here's someone else who's commenting on on the whole original document thing. One person is saying a lot of people now are only using electronic originals, even studios, and I have seen that trend, but I'm a little paranoid personally, so I always keep an original.
Yeah.
Someone else has commented, must have original documents to record or certified, such as probate orders transferring real property. These I keep in order file just in case one of these is not recorded but needs to be.
Yeah. Right.
Are there any other questions or comments? I think we're pretty close to time.
Yes.
And we are going to end this now. We want to thank everyone. Hi, AnGèle.
Hi, I just wanted to mention something really quick around the digital, documents, because in
Great.
the document preparation world, that's all we do is digital documents. And so definitely I saw someone just mentioned, DocuSign, Adobe has a signature feature as well. A lot of these digital signatures have digital, stamps and things that
Right.
help authenticate the signature. But also we're seeing an increase of remote and digital notaries becoming a lot more accepted across the states as well. So even with the Secretary of States and different agencies accepting digital documents, and also allowing for digital notaries. I see a question here about the LA County Recorder, and they are not accepting digital signatures. So they do have to be notarized and then sent to them. So they're not accepting digital signatures yet. And so just really making sure that we're up to date, because these are things that are changing really fast and they're state by state. So as you're engaging with different activities, you want to make sure that you're in line with what they're allowing as far as remote signatures, digital signatures, and digital notaries to certify and authenticate documents. So keep all that in mind.
That's great. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, AnGèle. Appreciate you. It looks like we have a couple more questions. We have about 5 minutes left. All right.
Alexander's question.
What system do you recommend to obtain marketing help for my law firm? I'm throwing that out to the panelists. Here's another question. I tried using project management workflow software, Microsoft Planner, to help get my processes systemized with checklists and steps in a way that can be monitored. Have you had any success with that? If so, any recommendations how to best implement? I have not had any experience or success using Microsoft Planner to work with a workflow or devise processes and procedures. I kind of will start out with an old-fashioned method using a spreadsheet and logging each procedure on this spreadsheet, and then having a column designated for forms and templates and checklists that are needed. And once I start filling that in, then I can start rearranging it, seeing where I have how much work needs to still be done on creating my processes, seeing what flows into what, and I kind of get an order there. And then I'm ready to rearrange and fine tune just using a simple spreadsheet or even a Word document, but I prefer a spreadsheet. I've not had any success using workflow software as is out of the box to create workflows for law firms.
And then there's a question, how do you work with clients, hourly or fee-based? Well, we do charge by the project. We have packages, and yeah.
AnGèle?
I just wanted to, somebody asked about, I'm not sure where it was, but in terms of like organizing files, a lot of our clients, they'll use systems such as Dropbox that don't have other systems that have it built in, because obviously there's software that's targeted or designated for all of this. But for the ones that do kind of have a different track or kind of have their own internal system, they'll use accessory software such as Dropbox as a secured place to organize digital files. And then we're seeing a lot of people become more comfortable with G Suite point as they've increased their protocols as well. So being able to just kind of figure out where you are and what you need access to for increased, efficiency. So just making sure that you access some of these cloud-based, softwares that can allow you to have your information secured in a cloud space so that you can access it from anywhere.
Well, absolutely. And Dropbox is very secure, but I don't recommend Dropbox. But so everyone has to look at what their needs are, as you said.
Yeah.
AnGèle, this is a question also for you. How do you work with clients, hourly or fee-based?
Oh, our packages are typically they're fee-based, just based on specifically what you need done. As I said before, we work with a lot of firms where we white label, and so we have special pricing for our clients that are in firms that need the services. So it could be for something as simple as a foreign registration for one of your clients, or maybe executing, doing one of those DBAs or fictitious business names in one of the counties, or maybe somewhere across the country in a parish. Wherever it is, we're able to do that, and it would be fee-based on what the actual item was.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here is a question that I missed a little earlier. What are the basic recommended systems for a solo law practice? You want to try to?
Basic recommended system. Well,
right, for the solo law practice. I think I kind of answered that earlier.
Yeah, with the hybrid.
Right. So it's a first client contact, client screening, client intake, right? There's also a system for those who don't become clients, which is kind of a marketing end of a system that you would have, right? For logging contacts from those who don't become a client and being able to follow up with them so they don't fall through the cracks. So you're always working the pipeline. Then after that, it would be whatever type of law is being practiced with this client. And so that it could kind of branch out from there, but case management, and of course, that includes billing and your file system. That's a basic. It's got to be the same. Any digital filing that you're doing would be the same for solo law practice. Let's see, what am I missing here? Your renewals, your practices for all your renewals, your memberships and subscriptions, right? Your marketing. What am I missing, ladies?
I think.
What are the other basic recommended systems for solo law practice?
And a lot of times things are tailored to, you have some general time, but it's more with what we do, as you know, Allison, is more customized. So it's what the practice.
Absolutely. I was just trying to make an attempt to throw out the best possible basic for a solo practitioner. All right, let's see what else we have before we sign off, because now we are
at 1:30.
Document retention period. Yeah, that's part of the filing system. Someone's asking about that. And that would be part of your filing system process.
Yeah, that and I think usually I have the attorney look that up as far as the rules for that, because that I don't touch as much. I will say maybe 10 years. Most clients that I've had, it's usually files that's past 10 years that where I say I believe you can archive and then destroy we select a destruction date. So I leave that up to the attorneys to make that decision. As far as the destruction date.
Someone has a follow-up question. Why do I not recommend Dropbox? Well, there's two main reasons. There's a very good reason to recommend them, and that is it's one of the more secure platforms out of the box. The reason I don't recommend them is that I don't feel that the navigation and the interface is intuitive enough. It has improved, but it's still lacking. And Dropbox also has a practice of what I call double billing. So if I share a file with AnGèle that she can, just for her to download, just for her to look at it, She doesn't have to save it to her Drop. She has to use some space on her Dropbox account in order to utilize it. So Dropbox ends up charging both of us for the same document. And part of that is because of the way that it's secure, but they do not explain that. I don't feel they're very transparent about their billing practices and the space usage. So I just don't like to deal with a company like that. I don't know what else they're not transparent about. So that's why I don't.
I wanted to quick and thank you. Then that is very true, and that's why a lot of people don't like to use it. But one of the ways that I use it, just as an example, is that in our office, because of the sensitive data that we hold for our clients, we have our own internal network, and so we have an internal network. And on our internal network, we have our drives and our backup drives. So on our backup drives, they daily ghost to our cloud, which is in our Dropbox. So we don't share our Dropbox files with anybody externally. It mirrors our network drive so that we can always access those files at any time in case something is damaged in our backup. So you want to have these protocols in place, because when it comes to the sensitive nature of the data, when it comes to protecting your clients, when it comes to being able to access the information, we're getting to a space where you have to be able to do it really from anywhere. And everybody working from home and being able to log in, plug in, or access, even if they're documents that are scanned on an internal network, we've realized more so recently how important it is to have these systems in place. So just consider how it could be used, and really bringing in, this is part of that outsourcing, bringing in the proper IT person to your team to navigate how these things can be done and how they integrate to your system of efficiency. So I just wanted to share that.
Great. No, that's a great point. Thank you so much.
We want to thank everyone, because I know we're out of time. So.
Yeah, we're out of time. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. AnGèle Cade, Pamela Mims, I'm Allison Gibson, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.